Hey there, welcome back to Science Flixtion. I am your host, Salim Sarawala, and I am joined by my co host and friend, Carl Eames. Carl, how's it going?
Doing great. How's everything on your end?
Good, good. I got I had a good holiday weekend, long holiday weekend. Uh Purchased a new TV. I
Same.
don't know if you can I don't know if you can see it back there. It's a little bigger. I rearranged a little bit of my setting. Um did that. Obviously, I went and saw Ghostbuster, which we'll get into later, and you saw Resident Evil, which again we'll get into later. But how was your time with family, though?
Non-existent. So I spent time with this
Oh,
TV. So
oh,
I
okay,
did the same thing you did. I bought a TV and
nice.
cleaned up a little bit, and family was a no-show or no-go. So yeah, that was my holiday, and yeah, that's about it. I went to go see Resident Evil on Saturday.
Yeah, yeah,
Saturday,
we went
Sunday.
we went like
Yeah.
simultaneously. Like I had just gotten out of the theater and I texted you. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go watch the. I just got out of the movie." It's like, "Oh, I'm just heading in." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah. Side note on that, the theater that I saw this movie in was the same theater I went to see Eternals in. I
Uh
don't think I'll be going back to that theater ever again
huh.
because of two
Why?
consecutive bad experiences, and this was way worse than Eternals because that
Like
was at the end. Uh,
people yelling.
no, no, they were like active discussion throughout the entire movie, and not even
uh,
like a small part. Like the whole movie, the entire back row were just chatting it up the entire time. Like completely rude. Like, okay, I'm gonna have to start going to the suburbs now to watch movies, as people can actually respect the movie going experience. So yeah, I already ordered my far No Way Home tickets
oh, you
at a
did.
different theater. Yeah,
I thought you said you weren't gonna participate in the first night of the ticket
I didn't.
purchasing
That was
event.
on Monday, and I bought my
Oh,
ticket
okay.
yesterday. Oh, yeah, was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday, and I was thinking about it. Like, yeah, I was gonna look, but let's see how well it's selling out, just in case it's like already sold out. And I got apparently this theater is selling tickets as early as 3 o'clock on Thursday, and there's like 10 seats left at 3 o'clock on Thursday. So I went ahead and grabbed one. Um, but yeah, it's selling out pretty fast, I guess. So these are the early screenings, and I've never seen a like I always see my movies on Thursday anyway. I've never seen them that early, like even be available. Like the earliest is usually 6 or 7, and now it's apparently 3 o'clock.
Oh, nice. I may
Maybe.
check it out. Like I was gonna wait, but I may go to a Thursday show just because like I'm so amped up to see this, and then I don't want to like see any spoilers because someone's gonna spoil
Yeah.
something.
Mhm. I
You
also
just
got
know
the
that's
matinee
gonna
price too, because if I waited till 4 o'clock, it would have been $5 more. So
happen. Nice,
that's
nice,
that
nice.
was the other motivating factor.
Nice. I'll see if I can do it earlier. I probably have to wait till after matinee just because I usually work till at least 4 o'clock. On Thursdays I work from home, but still I'm usually logged in till 4 o'clock, so I have to wait. But
Mhm.
anyway, speaking of Spider Man, we'll get into our show here. Just wanted to mention, I don't know if you saw the news. I think obviously you have. Uh, the producer of No Way Home. I don't know if it's a producer just in No Way Home or just in general Sony.
Amy Pascal.
Yeah, Amy Pascal. I'm not sure if she's just the producer of No Way Home or she's just involved as far as Sony is concerned in general. But she's like an executive on
I think
Sony
she's
or
like
whatever.
I think she's like the Kevin Feige of Sony.
Okay, okay, okay. So yeah, she mentioned that this is obviously we mentioned in the past that this is the end of the No Way Home or the Home trilogy, like Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home, and then she mentioned that they're going to move on and start a new trilogy, and that is Tom Holland is going to be involved with those Spider-Man movies. So that was announced. Kind of not a surprise, but at the same time, it's kind of like nice to hear.
Hmm.
because you never know. You just never know with how it's gonna shake out, especially some of the things Tom Holland was saying recently, how he thinks he'll be a failure if he was Spider-Man when he's 30. It's like, well, he's 25 right now, and
Uh-huh.
seeing that they do these movies every 2 years,
Right.
odds are he's not going to be Spider-Man that much longer. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's good to know he's going to be around for a little bit at least.
And I think it would be actually what one thing I love Spider-Man as a young, high schooler or early college, like that's like classic Spider-Man. I actually prefer adult Spider-Man, like in his young 20s or late mid 20s. I prefer that Spider-Man so much more because he's got so much more going on and so much to lose as well. I mean, Aunt May is still there, but he has his relationship with Mary Jane, which they were married for a long time, and he still has all of his friends and stuff like that. He has, depending on what part of Spider-Man you're reading, whether he's
Excuse me.
still taking pictures or he was at that brief time where he was a teacher, and stuff like that. That's for me, that's my Spider-Man for me. Like I like him grown. So if Tom Holland keeps going and we can move past this high school thing and get him into college or even past that, and if he's like past 30 years old, he can be like he's still gonna look young, so it can still be like a young adult type of Spider-Man. I'm all for that. And
Yeah,
but the I think the biggest thing that I really really want out of this next trilogy is for them to leave the Iron Man stuff in the past and move past him idolizing Iron Man and taking all of
right,
his tech. I'd like for him to get a basic Spider-Man suit that's not super tech based, and he
right.
can look more classic Spider-Man, and have just be that, but without the influence of the Avengers and Iron Man. Like they'll still be there, he'll still be part of the team, still do all that stuff, but it won't be so MCU influenced because that's like one of the knocks on this Spider-Man is that he is basically Iron Man's like I don't know, protege, but the comic books that didn't come until significantly later in
Right,
his career.
right. I'll say this. So, like, I don't know what exactly they're gonna do. Obviously, we don't know. No, none of us know. But they kind of pretty much said that he's gonna be the new Tony Park or Tony Stark of going forward. So I don't know what they mean by that. Obviously, do they just mean that he's gonna be the leader? That doesn't necessarily mean he's still gonna be like the same protege of Tony Stark, and I would imagine because since Robert Downey Jr. is like, you know what, I'm done with MCU, and I imagine they're not going to keep bringing him up. At some point, they'll probably move on, especially when they start doing like Iron Lad and stuff like that. I'm sure they'll eventually move on to that. And it'll be interesting. Like I said, it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing story wise because technically, Civil War is when Peter Parker is a grown adult. That's like in the comic book timeline.
Hmm.
Um, he's actually a grown, like he's an adult in that time frame when he reveals himself to be Spider-Man to the world. And then after that, which this movie is hinting, obviously it shows Doctor Strange doing the spell. In the comic book timeline, right after that, he goes to a character called we've brought him up before, Mephisto, to take back everyone knowing that he's Spider-Man, and then obviously it becomes a situation where Mary Jane is going to forget in the comics that is on, and everyone involved is going to forget that he's Spider-Man. So he's kind of they just showed like a saga of him living out the last days of Mary Jane knowing and all these different events that happen. But like I said, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go because um, obviously MCU does their own thing, but it's just interesting because obviously during in the comics, Civil War is when he's technically is an adult, but obviously in here they show him as a high school kid.
Hmm.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, I'm excited about that. Like obviously, you already know I'm a huge Spider-Man guy. He's easily my favorite guy. It's funny. I've been starting to read the comics again, um, just because like I'm so addicted to it. But yeah, yeah. So it's fun. It's nice to uh, know that they're gonna be doing a lot more Spider-Man stuff, and Sony and Disney, or yeah, Disney won't have like a fight about its rights. I guess the other interesting thing I do want to mention too, though, is it'll be interesting to see what they do with Sony does with all the movies that they're doing. Like supposedly right now, and maybe they're just kind of being like coy or hush hush about it, but they're supposedly saying that these movies that they're doing, they're not technically in MCU. That's what they kind of hinted towards or something, or said that they're technically not MCU, but maybe they're just saying that because they eventually want to bring these characters over because they want to include those characters for the second set of trilogy that they're going to do. So
I
that'll
mean,
be
like
interesting.
Black Cat and Venom and stuff, or are you talking about specifically the Spider-Man movies?
The specifically like the new Sony movies that they're the Sony the like the Venom, Morbius, and all that stuff. Supposedly they're saying that technically it may not cross over. They
Yeah, I don't
mentioned
think it
that,
all will. No.
but
I
it'll
mean,
be
they're like, yeah, like I said, I think I said this before that there's a chance that they can like cross over, say like Morbius, because it makes more sense for Morbius to cross over with Blade than, even though he's like Spider-Man and stuff, you can still involve him in Spider-Man, or have Spider-Man jump over to be in a Morbius movie or something like that. But it would make more sense for Morbius to be with Blade and so on. But they're not going to keep doing this for every character. Like when they eventually have this Black Cat movie and this rumored Craven the Hunter movie, they're not going to do a jump over for each one of those and say, well, we're going to have Craven jump over in Spider-Man's movie, but then he's going to have his own movie, and just keep on like, that's gonna, like, if I'm Kevin Feige, I'm gonna be exhausted. Like, you're gonna have a Betty Brant movie, and then you're gonna have her cross over into the MCU so she can hang out with Karen Page and hang out with MJ, so that way she can be canon. But then in Betty Brant 2, she's gonna be back in her own. Like, they're not gonna do every single Spider-Man character and then um, try to find a reason to put them in the MCU, like, because again, like, they're in a separate universe, so the Doctor Strange multiverse stuff, it's not going to happen every single time, and they can't keep trying to find an excuse to get Morbius and Carnage and the Shocker and you know Paste Pot Pete or whatever to be all in the same movie. It's not going to happen.
yeah. Well, so you said they're doing a Betty Brant movie, or are you just joking about
Just
that?
just joking.
Oh, okay. I was like, I mean, look, she's an important character in the early years of Spider-Man, but like her having her own movie would be absolutely bizarre. Like, what?
But that's what I mean. Like, is it like, I like Black Cat, but do I think she's gonna, deserves her own movie? No. Am I gonna go see it? Probably, but I don't think she deserves the whole movie, or for that matter, a trilogy, which is most likely what Sony's gonna do. They're gonna make three movies of Black Cat. They're gonna make three movies with Morbius. They're gonna do three Sinister Six movies, probably. They're gonna do three Craven the Hunter movies, because that's still rumored, and they'll just find whatever C-list Spider-Man character they can to try to make a movie to make some money. Because Morbius, if you just told me like 5 years ago, it doesn't deserve a movie. What they're doing with this movie, like, okay, they're fleshing him out enough to make a decent movie, but at the back of every Spider-Man's fan's head is, when he's going to cross over with Spider-Man. Just like the
Right.
Venom, like Venom's cool to do his own thing, but without Spider-Man, he's still lacking some substance, and he's still gonna have that question just looming over the entire franchise. When is he gonna go and meet Spider-Man? And they can't keep doing that for his entire rogues gallery of villains, and they can't do that for his entire supporting cast. Like, it's gonna have to stop at some point.
No, hundred
They're
percent.
gonna have to have him, Tom Holland, actually be in their universe, and not in the MCU, or find the Doctor Strange reason why they can come over and then go back.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, Morbius is a nice supporting character. I mean, Marvel did do like a small Morbius series, um, which does have like some, background on Michael Morbius and all that stuff. But yeah, it's kind of hard to milk out 3 movies of
Mhm,
Morbius. I don't know what you're gonna really do. Obviously, you're gonna have to create brand new storylines of your own, um,
mhm.
which obviously they can do it if they want to. But yeah, we'll see. Anyways, we'll get into move on now. Get into the movies that you and I saw. We'll start out with Ghostbusters Afterlife. First, if anyone just in case hadn't seen the final trailer, we'll play that really quick. So, just a quick final trailer that you guys can view right now.
I remember Revelations. And I looked as he opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. Judgment Day. Raise a cult.
I'm calling about what happened in New York.
There hasn't been a ghost sighting in 30 years.
Oh my god. What is happening here?
His grandfather was a Ghostbuster. Something was coming and he knew it.
I think we opened the gates of hell.
Hey, have you missed us?
So yeah, that's a trailer. I mean, so the movie itself, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It was a kind of a newer twist to it. Like it was a little more serious, a little more darker than the original. Um, is there you hear an echo?
No.
No, okay, just me. Maybe I'm just hearing voices in my head. Anyways, but yeah,
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters, maybe the Afterlife. It's maybe I shouldn't have watched the movie, but no, yeah. So the movie itself, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a nice, you know, uh, homage to the original. I know you had some questions as well. We'll get into those, but yeah, like so I said, like I thought it was well acted. Like the characters were nice. They worked well with each other. Um, the story, obviously, they borrowed from the original going in, which there's some things that I'll connect as we continue our conversation here. But yeah, I thought it was a fun movie. Like I said, I didn't, I wouldn't give it like a 5 or anything necessary, like a 3.5 stars, if you will. But it was entertaining.
3.5 out of 5.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
then, like, okay, so I was like a quick history on my Ghostbusters knowledge and history and stuff. I actually used to be a huge Ghostbusters fan when I was a kid. So it was talking about early 90s. And so much so, I dressed up as a Ghostbuster for Halloween. I had the full jumpsuit, I had a proton pack, the blaster, the trap, and all of that. And my mom even told me that I watched Ghostbusters so much on VHS that I broke the VCR. And that's Ghostbusters 1, Ghostbusters 2, and since then I have not been at all into the franchise. I don't hardly remember even what happened in those movies. I only really remember what's his name, Slimer, and the Stay Puft Marshmallow. That's all I really remember. I don't remember the characters at all, the plot, or anything else. But I am curious enough if this new movie, if it's connected to all of those old movies, and does that also include that one Ghostbusters movie from a couple years ago, the all female cast, which funny enough, I own that movie because I got it for free. I have not
Mhm.
watched it yet.
So yeah, so the all female cast is not canon to this.
Okay.
They don't. There's no mention of that. I think I don't know if they just want to pretend like that never existed. I mean,
Hmm.
um, I mean that I thought that movie was entertaining, but I know there's a lot of people had issues with it. I don't, for various reasons. Some not cool reasons, but others maybe just they just didn't like the movie, the storyline, or whatever.
So
Um,
was it at the time when that movie came out? Was it at the time considered to be a continuation?
I don't believe so. And to be honest, it's been a while since I've seen that movie. Like I think I saw it like maybe a couple of months after it came out of the
Mhm.
theater, out of theater. So I don't remember it like in the beginning if they mentioned anything with um in relation to the original Ghostbusters. But this movie for sure, they don't mention anything to with the all female cast.
Hmm.
Because even like Chris Hemsworth is in that movie too. They didn't mention anything with him or his character or anything like that. As far as like a lot of the stuff for the original movie, yeah, that this is connected very much to the original movie, and we'll definitely get into that a little bit more here. And so how now this is going to be spoilers. I'm going to be giving away spoilers here, just so we're aware, just in case if anyone hasn't seen this movie yet or wants to see it. There's tidbits I'm going to be giving out that will probably spoil parts of the movie. So listeners beware. But yeah, so as we get into the movie, so like you mentioned, like the proton packs, the blasters, traps, that's all they bring that back, all
So
the same, and this is the
is it
original, and
all?
it's all the
Yeah.
original ones too. So
Okay.
like they when they find the new characters like the kids, when they find on on like as they're doing whatever they're doing, like even the car, the Ghostbuster car, it's like it's like the original car that's been sitting in a garage, if you will, and covered up, and it's all dusty and it's not working, and they had to like fix it to get it to work. But yeah, it's all of the original equipment is back in this movie. Um, and they do. I feel like it's funny. So kind of like there's a couple of like Easter eggs, not necessarily maybe Easter eggs, but like hints toward throughout the movie that kind of connects the original movie too. Um, so the first hint they have is at the very beginning of the movie, where in in um, the original movie you see Zool that enter Dana Barrett's apartment, like possessing her in an armchair by reaching the claws through the fabric. So that's Zool, obviously. And the goal of the result was like the same thing would happen to Egon's character originally, because in this new movie, obviously Harold Ramis passed away years ago, but they kind of show like a silhouette of him, someone pretending to be him or acting as him, in the beginning. In the shadow, he's kind of like running away from a ghost that he was trying to potentially trap. Gets back to his farmhouse that he has, and he's trying to trap it there. And then he sits down in his chair, and the ghost, in the same way that it possesses Dana Barrett, but in this sense, it kills Egon. But it does the same thing through like the chair, so it kind of makes a hint at Zool, which was in the original movie. So he dies, but like I said, the method and approach is similar. Uh, and it makes you realize, okay, this is not a random new ghost. It's probably Zool.
So they
Um,
killed off the character because the actor passed away.
yeah, let's imagine they're not going to
Okay.
have Egon in the movie, obviously. So they just wanted they killed him off in the beginning. And then the next thing I'll mention too that they show. So when they go to the early sightings of Shandor, the characters podcast and Phoebe. So the little boy is podcast, and Phoebe, who is related to Harold Ramis's character Egon. Essentially, that's his granddaughter. They show. Um, they're going to this location uh, in the mountains. So he points out some of the Art Deco hieroglyphics, which kind of scores its surface. The hieroglyphics, upon closer examination, they're like perfect recreation of the statue layout that topped Dana Barrett's building in the original movie. So that's another tip right there that the beginning of the movie is hinting towards Gozer, which was one of the main ghost villain, if you will, that is trying to come back to life and to take over or whatever. So those two right there, it kind of hints that shows like this direct connection to the first set of movies, and they're starting off, and obviously the plot of the movie ends up essentially being where they're gonna have to fight these Zool and Gozer again, um and get away with that. But obviously they have their own twist to it. Like Slimer isn't back. It's a new character called Muncher. He looks a little bit like Slimer, but he's different in the movie here. But yeah, it's really it was like I said, it was a fun movie. And it showed a lot of great other things. There's a couple other things I did want to mention, references about the movie that I thought were interesting. The tidbits about the movie. So um, in I don't know if people knew this or not, but Bill Murray and Harold Ramis had a falling out um, in in the original movies from the original movies because the in so Harold Ramis's daughter, um, she wrote a book. Her name Violet Ramis Steele. She wrote memoirs of Ghostbusters daughter life with my dad. Harold Ramis and Murray had an intense creative disagreement on set of Groundhog Day. So it wasn't so it wasn't during Ghostbusters. It was during Groundhog's Day that one day that Ramis kind of grabbed Murray and kind of by his collar and threw him against a wall. And then after that, Murray didn't speak to Ramis for over 20 years. And in this movie, they do bring back the original three. So all of them are and then Egon is back too in a sense, but he's a ghost in the movie. And so they basically show a situation where Bill Murray is kind of, making amends with Harold Ramis, but it's obviously Venkman, making amends with Egon in a sense. So that was really cool. I thought that was a nice touch to that, seeing that there was a real life fallout, and they had actually made amends in a sense right before Ramis passed away. Um, Bill Murray had gone over on essentially Ramis was on his deathbed, and he pretty much has lost his ability to speak, but Murray went over there with like a box of donuts supposedly, and he kind of just talked for both of them, and they obviously they kind of he buried the hatchet with them at that point, but they kind of wanted to it was nice that they referenced it in this movie. And then the last thing I do want to mention was one of the post-credit scenes. I know, obviously, I don't know if you know this. Maybe you've heard about it, but um, in the original movie, Ernie Hudson's character, Winston Zeddemore, he was supposed to have a much bigger role in that movie. He was supposed to be in the movie from the beginning. He had like a bigger background. Um, it was like well documented. Hudson's character was supposed to have like a much bigger role in the '84 until the script change. Meant that many of his early lines were kind of taken over by the other members. Like they gave it to those other members his lines. And then in the Afterlife, it's kind of set, and in that post credit scene, in the final scene, it kind of sets up a sequel in the post credits where he finally does get some kind of justice to the character of the original Ghostbusters, where Winston is given more due. He's like, it shows him like where he's well accomplished since his days as a Ghostbuster, and he ends up purchasing the old firehouse headquarters. He's positioning himself to be like kind of the forefront of where the franchise might be heading towards next.
Okay.
So like his kind of shows in like his status in the Ghostbusters has risen, and he's going to kind of potentially be in charge. There's a little other stuff that kind of happens in that post credit scene, but I just thought that was cool because obviously he was kind of given the raw deal in the original movies where he wasn't really, he wasn't even like one of the original posters for the movie. He wasn't even included in that poster.
Oh,
Yeah, so they really did him, dirty, and they kind of made up for it. But yeah, like I said, there's the little things here or there that I pointed out that are nice little touching stuff that they did, and the movie overall, like I said, I would recommend. Maybe you don't want to watch in the theater, that's fine. But if you have, one night in a weekend when you're kind of looking for something to do, it's a nice movie to throw on when it comes out. So I would recommend watching it for sure.
okay. Well, so it sounds like the original cast played they weren't just like a small cameo in this movie, that they were like throughout the entire movie.
So in the end, they show up. The Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson. They show up in the end
Okay.
in like the final battle scene, if you will. But yeah, it's like I said, it's it, the most of the bulk of the movie is um with McKenna Grace, Finn, Wolfhand, I think Wolford. They show him, obviously Paul Rudd. They also have their mom, who is Carrie Coon. She's in it as well, obviously. So they have her in there as well. Yeah, they're the ones that are in the movie the most, and then in the end they do bring back those three. And I don't know if I don't know if Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd will be involved later on, but it seems to be that Ernie Hudson might be involved in if they do a sequel.
So okay, and then another question I had. You said they had the same original guns and the car, but did they have anything else that was new to this, like, current day technology to use to catch these ghosts or fight?
No, no. So they didn't. Like I said, the catcher, ghost catcher, was the same, like the original one, like they show. Like the prop that they have is pretty much exactly similar to the one in the original movies. The blasters with the pack, everything's the same. They didn't really have anything different. Maybe I can't remember if they had the what do you call the detector was different maybe in this one, but maybe not. I can't remember. But yeah, everything like the equipment was all the same. They showed like the kids finding it and basically, yeah.
All right. And well, as far as, because I'm asking because I'm just curious, and I don't know, but as far as like all the ghosts and other monsters and stuff, were they given like an art style that was like they came just out of the original movies, or were they modernized to look like someone designed them recent? Like, you look at Ghostbusters Ghosts, it's like, oh, that's from the 80s. Did they look like they came out of 2021?
Yeah,
Uh,
so
were they done with like modern CGI? Were they done with practical effects?
yeah, so like Zool might have been a little bit of CGI, but he looked very similar to the original um one, like when he was like the chasing them in the store and stuff like that. And I think that might have been just a throwback where they use the same kind of um I don't know, whatever that they use, maybe robotics. I don't know what they used back then, but it looked very similar. Muncher, who is like the new Slimer, if you will, he basically just eats whatever. It's kind of like Slimer eats whatever, eats everything. He was CGI for sure. and then in the end, Olivia Wilde ends up playing Gozer, and yeah, see, like you see the jetpacks and the blasters there, and so Olivia Wilde ends up playing Gozer, and she's she looks a little different, but like her outfit, her hairstyle, and everything is similar. So yeah, like I said, there was a lot. Like I said, they were connecting the first one, but these characters had their own like story arcs and things like that. And I'm sure going forward, they're going to do. Uh, I'm not sure what they're going to do. I wouldn't want to guess or anything, but it does seem like I said, it does seem like from the one of the post credit scenes, that they would have Ernie Hudson involved, because he like the whole firehouse. Like I said, he buys that and he's going to restart that up again. So will be interesting as far as what they do with the firehouse, or if they're going to have the firehouse in the sequel or something in general. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll move on though. I know we'll get into Resident Evil here. I know you went and saw that, as we were saying earlier in the show. We simultaneously, like I saw Ghostbusters, and you saw, as I got done watching it, you went in and saw Resident Evil. So we'll get into that. Like I know you wanted to mention what your thoughts were on the movie. Obviously, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and tell us about Resident Evil to start?
Yeah, Resident Evil. I am the resident gamer between the two of us. So, not only that, I'm actually very much like I love Resident Evil, the franchise. They have more than 10 games to them. I have not played them all. Um, my favorite of them all is Resident Evil 4. It was one of my favorite games of all time up until like last month, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, this franchise has many games to it, a very big story, a lot of things that are serious topics and that can work as good stories, and things that are just super silly, and it's just all very, how Japanese comedy and seriousness kind of collide in storytelling. But for what it's worth, this movie was disappointing, which isn't all that unexpected. Um, if you're not familiar with how video game um adaptations work, none of them have ever been good. Uh, Ever. I can't think of a single video game adaptation that was good off the top of my head. Not one. Um, but this wasn't so super bad. Like Super Mario was way worse than this movie. I don't know if you ever seen that movie before. You ever watched that?
Yeah, I watched the John Leguizamo
Yeah.
one. Yeah, I watched that. I thought the original Resident Evil was fun. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe
So yeah.
maybe I was also like 20 years old when that came out, so maybe maybe my memory is
I'll
different.
defend that one. I honestly will defend that one. I do actually genuinely like the first Resident Evil movie from, I think you said it was 2002,
Right.
with Mia Jovovich and um, why am I blanking on her? Like me and John
Yeah.
have this thing for the woman in there, the Hispanic woman, Michelle
Yeah,
Rodriguez.
Michelle Rodriguez. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I
me.
was
Yeah,
18. I was 18 when
yeah.
that came out. Sure.
Right, yeah. We have a thing for her. And yeah, I'll defend that movie as a pretty solid movie in general. I think it's got some cool things going on. It's just a really fun game referencing movie, but it's still, as far as how that franchise of movies went, which they have Resident Evil 2 Aftermath, I think it's what it's called. I don't remember. There's so many though. They went and kept going and made like 7 movies with this Mia Jovovich character, which she is not a game character, but she ended up being like the main character of these movies, but she's not at all in these games. And that's why this movie was made, because what this is to be more true to the games, at least, and that's what they say, more true to the game story than the Mia Jovovich movies were, because they went off and did their own thing, kind of referenced stuff from the games, and had characters with similar names and roles, but for the most part, like I said, the Mia Jovovich Alice character drove the movie. She was the main character, and that's just not at all how the games played out. Um, but this movie completely disregards all of that. It's a fresh reboot, starts over, and it is basically a combination of the story from Resident Evil 1, the first game, and Resident Evil 2, for better and for worse. They combined both of those games' story, mix it all around, and then made this movie. And instead of going through the trailer, like going through just to show you, I'm going to show you that a little clip of that in a second, of like something that's good in this movie. I do want to start talking about the positives about the movie before I start talking about the negatives. And one of the positives is the character Claire Redfield. Claire was by far the best character in this movie by a lot, like by a mile. She was the best character in this movie,
She's the main
and
character, right?
she is not the main character, because the main cast. I would say honestly though, um, I wouldn't say she's the main character. They just kind of co-lead it, but she does do a little bit more of the work pushing the story forward than the other characters that are kind of the main. So we have Claire Redfield and Chris Redfield, brother and sister, and you have Leon S. Kennedy and Jill Valentine. Those are the player characters from the games that you would, if you picked up the games, the first two games, you're going to be playing as one of those characters. And let's see, out of all of these games here, I've personally only played the last three at the bottom, but I've watched. See, I started Resident Evil 0 and I never finished it because I don't like tank controls and static camera. And the next three I've not played, but I played the remakes, and then Code Veronica I have not played at all. Just to throw that out there, but I'm familiar with the story. So anyway, the best character by far is Claire, and she, of the four, like I said, Jill, Chris, Claire, and um, Leon, I think she's probably the most unexpected character to be the best one. Leon is like one of the most fan favorite type of characters from the games, and Chris is kind of one of the more driving forces of the games, as far as uh, pushing the narrative forward. But Claire has been hardly in the games. Not she says like with three games that she's in, no, two, three. There's three games that she's in out of like the 10-15 games that they've made, and there's a very small role. So it's just kind of unexpected, at least for me, that she would be not only the best character but also pushing the story forward. She had so many great moments of shooting zombies, shotguns, like, and she was there for it. Yeah, so that's Alice is on the right. This picture of is Alice. That's the character from the first movies. That's not in the games, and she's not at all in the new movies for the record. But she just takes aim of everything. Like Leon is everyone's favorite, nearly everyone. He's my favorite, actually. I'll just say that he's by far my favorite male protagonist in any game ever. And his character in this game, or excuse me, in this movie, he's just kind of a little disappointing up until the end. He doesn't really do much. Although one thing that's weird about it, the whole movie, is that there's zombies and no one's freaked out about it, other than Leon. Other than Leon, he is the only character that is like completely in the dark. So just to give you a quick background, on Leon. Leon's a rookie cop, and this is his first day on the job. And there's a zombie outbreak on his first day on the job. So he is in this movie. He meets. He's at like a diner in the movie, and when we first meet him, and then Jill and Wesker and like a couple other guys, part of this group called Stars. They are like the elite police force, police like a group within the police, like Raccoon City's police department, and then they have the Stars as an elite group of police officers. So they're there, and then Leon's like just next to them eating, and they just kind of like another group of cops come in and they joke and they talk about, oh, your dad was a cop and he got you this job in this really terrible town, and I heard you shot somebody accidentally when you picked up your first gun. You're so bad at being, stuff like that. Because he just like he's a rookie, and throughout the movie, as these things are happening, he's like, "What's going on? No one's telling me anything. I don't know what's going on. What's happening to these people?" He's the only person in the whole movie that has that kind of reaction. Claire is coming in, even her, she's a great character, but she comes in with this knowledge of the zombies or something. Something's wrong. I should say she knows something's wrong. Uh, Her brother dismisses everything, but when stuff happens, he's still like, "Oh, don't know what's wrong with these people, but I'm going to shoot them anyway." And then same thing with Jill. She's kind of the same thing. So Leon at least has like a genuine reaction to it, and literally every other character is like, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna shoot him and whatever." um
They're
but
not freaked out by. They're not
yeah,
freaked out by the
yeah,
eating of humans.
not freaked out by the blood coming out of the eyes, not freaked out by the crows that are like flying all crooked and stuff, and the Doberman pinchers that are the foaming at the mouth and stuff like that. No, like, even though Claire wasn't really freaked out, it was still cool to see her act like a boss. Like, she was totally gangster in this movie. um the only gripe I have with her is that her jacket didn't have any kind of detail on it, because one Easter egg in the original games, it's a red jacket, but then it has like a pattern on the back. I think it's like an angel or something like that. Um, I can't think of it exactly, but it's like a big fun pattern on the back. And then in the new games, it's a different pattern, but it's still something back there. When this jacket didn't have anything, and then her hair wasn't in a ponytail, which is not a big deal, but it would have been nice. Anyway, another thing that it didn't have a lot of great cinematic things, but there was a really cool shot that I want to show. They actually posted on the YouTube channel, so we're going to go to that right now. It's just a really great example of. So yeah, that's like a really cool scene in the movie, and that's just like the first part of it too, because they don't have any more on YouTube. It kind of goes on later. They revisit it where it's the same kind of idea, where the lights, instead of a lighter, it's with gunshots. So there's a big action scene where the zombies are coming at him. It's dark, and then he shoots the gun. The light from the gun lights up the room, so you can see the zombie coming. But then just only every gunshot is the light, so it's just a flash, and then that's it. And then another flash with the gun, and then you see the zombies getting shot, and then another flash of the gun, and it just keeps going. And it's just a really cool sequence that they did, and it was really good. but there's not that many of those in the movie that are like good sequences or good camera angles or good acting for that matter. It was like these actors weren't bad, but they just weren't put in positions to do all that well. Um, and I guess we can just go from there to like something I would consider bad is just they just stuffed too much in the movie. Um, like I said, there's like 10, 15 games, and this is
So they added all the games into like one movie, or
no, they added like about two games. The first two games are all this story. So there are maybe I would say they take Chris and well, Chris kind of on his own. So it was really more Claire and Leon are a group for the most part, and they follow them pushing some story forward in one side of things, and then they have Wesker and Jill, and then Chris and some other guy. I don't just some random dude because the four of them go to the mansion to investigate some dead body or something like that, and then once they're in the mansion they split up, so they go two groups in the mansion, and then Chris and Leon or Claire and Leon are at the police department. So there's like three different things going on. But in the games, the mansion is its entire game. That's the first game is the mansion. The things that happen in the first game is in the mansion, under the mansion, and around the mansion. And that's like if you're playing the games for the first time and you're just pacing yourself, that's easily like 10 hours of gameplay, including cutscenes and stuff. You can speed run these things if you know exactly what you're doing and where you're going, and play it in maybe like 2 or 3 hours. But for the most part, that's still more than enough material to be a whole movie. And then same thing with the second game. It's, take your time, 10, 15 hours of gameplay, plus cutscenes and stuff. But speed running it, maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours if you're really, really good. Either way, that's still more than enough to be its own movie. But they took both games and put them together in one movie, and then move people around and put them in situations that they weren't in the games, interacting with characters that they weren't interacting with in the games, and they also switched personalities a little bit. Um, but it was just too much of a mess, and when you do all of that, it leaves or you miss opportunities to develop characters and develop plot lines and to explain things, um, because there's so much going on in this movie. They kind of just jump right into zombies and not really explain where they came from, why were they made, who's behind all of this, how do you know that they're gonna die when you shoot them in the head, like, or what is their weakness, or uh, in just fleshing things out a whole lot more, um, would have been so much better than trying to dram everyone's favorite character and then a few referencing scenes from the games and going into stuff like that.
well, to be fair, headshots usually kill anything.
True,
So
very true. In most cases that does work. But like, let's just say, for example, the if you just look at like the first game and what they could have done for this whole movie, so that would have cut out Claire, that would have cut out Leon, um, and just not had them at all. Because the first game is just about Jill and Chris, and Wesker, who is like he's a villain in the games, but Wesker in the movie is kind of well, he's different. We'll just say he's just different. He's not quite at that villain level because even in the games, it was like a kind of a trick. Like you think he's actually the captain of stars, and you think he's on your side, and then he double crosses you later on. In the movie, he knows something is wrong going into it, but he wasn't like fully against the team right away. He just was like, I know a little something, but that's about it. But going into the movie, almost everyone knows a little something is wrong before the movie even starts, except for Leon, who is literally, like I said, it's his first day, so he doesn't know anything. Um, and I think that explaining that part of it would have been better, and having like why does Wesker know all of this stuff? Why does Claire know all this stuff? They did go into that a little bit, but why does the police chief know everything? Why does Chris not feel as bothered as he should be, and being in a mansion surrounded by people trying to eat his throat? He's just shooting people just because they're attacking, not somewhat, not asking any questions, not doing any investigating, stuff like that, to flesh out the story. And it could have been more moments from the games that they could have brought in. So they did do like a couple good like video game references. Um, like if you play the original game, one of the first cutscenes with a zombie, or I think it is the first cutscene with a zombie, you see them like eating someone on the ground, and then when they approach him with the gun, he turns up and looks backwards like that. So they did that shot in the movie. But then and then another thing they did is, I think almost every game there is a helicopter pilot that's supposed to be just like, helicopter pilot, I'm here to save you, let's get you out of here. Always crashes and dies every game. And like I said, it's like 10-15 games. It's just something that's like they do all the time, and they did that in the movie, so that was really cool for them to throw that in there. And then they had puzzles. The game is not just shooting zombies, but there's like puzzles to solve. Like I said, just stuff, hidden rooms and stuff. They had like one puzzle in the movie. It was okay, but um, some effort was there. But if they didn't combine so much, they could have had an opportunity for more puzzles, more fleshed out characters, and more plot points and more explanation than what they had.
Were
Um,
there any like post credit scenes or mid credit scenes? I think. That you...
so I think, as I explained earlier, the movie theater that I went to was a little trashy,
Okay.
and I was pretty much ready to get up out of there as soon as the movie was over. So I didn't watch any post-credit scenes, or at least look for any, or figure out if there was until afterward. Which I have not seen it, but there is a post-credit scene. It involves Ada Wong, which would be her first appearance in the movie. So she's just like a secret thing. And Wesker. So Wesker is supposedly, well, he was supposed to have died in the movie, which was weird. A weird take, uh, a deviation from the games, I should say, in a way, kind of. Um, but he supposedly have died, but then Ada shows up and he's still alive. She took his body and they jacked him up with some virus. So he's still alive and he's got powers now. So that was pretty much what happened. I just wish I would have seen what Ada looked like, what kind of dress she had on, haircut and stuff, because Ada's just really cool. But yeah, like that's about it for what it's worth. Like there were some characters that were missing, and some characters, like I said, uh, their personalities were swapped. One, Barry Burton, not in the movie. Rebecca Chambers, not in the movie. There weren't any tyrants, which is like a big humanoid monster in the movie. That's usually the end boss for most of the games. There weren't any tyrants whatsoever. There was one liquor monster, but no tyrants, including Mr. X. Marvin at the police department, it was not at all there. And unless there was a Easter egg that I missed, like in the background, I don't think Kendo's gun shop or Joseph Kendo or Robert Kendo were in the movie whatsoever. It did have Lisa Trevor, and she was very different from what she was in the games, but she was in the movie, and she basically wasn't even a threat. As much of a threat she is in the game, she wasn't a threat at all. She was actually like a friend to Claire.
Okay.
Um, for the most part, and she helped them. She killed the liquor, and she helped them find the secret doors in the orphanage. But that's about it. And you have something as incredibly creepy and weird as Lisa Trevor. I would have liked to have seen her do something a little bit more. At least have a fight. Like I said, she did fight a liquor and killed it, but after that, we didn't see her again. There was no fight because in the games, you if you fight her, she will kill you, and that's just it. You cannot beat her at all. And I would have liked to have seen someone try her and then do something else, but yeah, they just kind of wasted it. Um, yeah, that's it's just a whole lot of mess. I wish it was a lot more, and they didn't try to stuff so much in there. But we'll see what happens, because I guess they're planning on doing more. If there was like maybe half of the theater was full of people, so it had a pretty good showing from when I went. But again, it was like Saturday, so it wasn't even like the opening night. So maybe they made some good money.
Nice, nice. So they didn't. Did they have any like homage to like the original movies, like Easter eggs, like referencing the original movie somehow? And
I would say no. I mean, I have. It's been so long since I've seen Resident Evil, the first movie, a
Mhm.
handful of times because I do actually genuinely like it. When it comes on TV, actually watch it. But the other movies after that, I think I've seen the second movie once, and then 3, 4, 5, and whatever they're titled, I've never seen. So if there was references to those specifically, I wouldn't even know. But as far as the first couple, I don't think so. Like I said, the Mila Jovovich character is not at all in the games, and they didn't reference her in this movie, and I don't believe they will. I think they're moving on from that, and I can't think of any other sequences or kills or anything else that was like a reference to the first movie.
Interesting. So what would you say this like? You not a good movie at all, and you not interested in the second one at all, or
I'm like slightly interested only because Ada, and it's like literally only because Ada, because I want to see what she looks like and then what they might do with her. She's a very mysterious character, and she has this big thing. Her and Leon have a thing. Let's just say that. I won't over explain because even Capcom doesn't know what they're doing with those two. But uh, they have a thing, and it's very like I'm very very interested in what they might do with her. And Wesker in general is one of the best video game villains of all time, and I don't like what they did with his character in this movie. But he didn't really it wasn't really about him as a villain in this movie anyway, for the most part. So if they do continue on, hopefully they will evolve his character and make him good, make him entertaining. Because like I said, he backstabs the team in both the game and the movie, but the way he backstabbed them in the movie wasn't like, oh, he was plotting all along to, he's been the bad guy. It wasn't Agatha all along. It wasn't one of those things. It's just like
right?
he knew something, but he didn't know everything. And then once he just like, okay, I'm just gonna go with this. And then Jill was like, I'm not sure what you're doing. What are you doing? And then he just went off, and then we didn't see him again until he started uh, killing folks, which was pretty messed up what he did actually. We'll go- I won't go into that too much, but yeah, um, they changed too much with some of the characters, and they didn't need to.
How about I like the actor Neil McDonough. He's been in a lot of different things, like a lot of different things. Is he a
Yes.
fairly big role?
Yes, so he
Or
plays William Birkin, and William Birkin is like the chief scientist of Umbrella. Umbrella is a
Okay.
pharmaceutical company. I didn't really
Right.
explain that. So Umbrella is a pharmaceutical company, and they basically own the city of Raccoon City. Like they
Right. That hasn't changed from the original movie because that's also referenced in the original that they're a pharmaceutical company.
right. So they're this big pharmaceutical company, and the premise of like the beginning of this whole movie is that they are the umbrella is basically everyone in Raccoon City works at Umbrella pretty much because
Hmm.
that's what they're there for. And Umbrella decided to leave, and everyone that made a bunch of money with Umbrella went with Umbrella, but everyone that couldn't afford to leave Umbrella or leave the town because they just didn't make enough money or they were poor or whatever, they had to stay behind, and Umbrella just left. And it's basically a ghost town, Raccoon City now. The Spencer Mansion is gone because he's the one that founded Umbrella and made all the money. The mansion's empty, etc. So Birkin, which doesn't make sense to me, if he is their chief scientist, the person that invented this virus and all of this, why is he still there and everyone else is gone? That makes no sense to me. If he making good money, he should be. He created the virus. That's the whole point of what they're doing is to sell this thing on the black market and make a bunch of money. And they need his research and his virus, this sample. Why is he still there and everyone else gone?
Is he like a bad guy in the movie then, or?
He is a bad guy, and in the games as well. Um, but they kind of made it seem like he because again in the games he's a bad guy but kind of out of circumstance, whereas in this movie he's bad because he's making this he's making this virus, and then he's already involved. Again, everyone knows something in this movie, but they don't explain why they know it or how they know it. And
Right.
he's basically caught by Wesker. Like what happens is like real quick, um Birkin and his wife are waking up by their daughter. It's like she goes to sleep, nightmare, monsters are trying to get me. Ah, no, you're just fine. And then they go back to sleep, honey, and then Birkin gets a phone call while they're attending to the daughter, and then we don't even know what's said, but he hangs up the phone. Hey, honey, everyone get dressed. We have to leave right now. And then they ended up going down to the secret laboratory underneath the police station, or maybe it's believed orphanage. I can't remember, but there's a secret laboratory underneath the ground. He's grabbing all of the virus samples, and his wife, which in the games, his wife Annette Birkin, also works for Umbrella, and she knows absolutely everything, and she is very much involved in the creation of the viruses and the testing and all of that stuff. In this movie, she knows absolutely nothing. She's just a regular mom. She had like 3 lines, and she got shot in the head really fast. And that's it. And that's what, by Wesker. So Wesker comes in to this lab. He finds out what Birkin's doing. They try to do the I don't have a gun, and then all of a sudden I got shot sort of thing. So when Birkin gets shot, he's trying to get the virus into him before he dies, and then that's when Annette gets shot, and then Sherry's just there. um he pulls his gun out on the kid, but he wasn't going to shoot her because she's a kid, and he just killed his mom and her dad and her mom. So he wasn't going to shoot her. And then Jill comes in and shoots Wesker, which she shouldn't even be involved whatsoever. But again, this whole situation is completely different from the games. And then he turns into a monster. Birkin turns into a monster because he injected himself, and he becomes the big monster at the end of the movie. Continuing on, but his role is just a lot different than the games were. He did okay as the monster, but he still was very very little of him was in the actual uh movie. and then he changed it to the monster. And after that, once he's this monster, he's like this for like maybe 3 minutes, and then he turns into a second form, and you don't even see his face anymore. So yeah, it's fine, but at the same time, it would have been nice for that to be a fleshed out thing in a whole movie instead of a 5 minute sequence. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, for sure. It seems like they had a lot, like you said, they had a lot going on, and they didn't know how to like kind of organize it all.
Yeah, I just think that you're trying to appeal to as many Resident Evil fans as possible without realizing that it's sacrificing the quality of the story.
Right, right. So, but yeah, those are the movies that Carl and I saw. We talked about them. I think my recommendation is mine was good, and yours is good.
Yeah, if there's one thing to walk away from is you should probably go see the movie he saw and not see the one that I did.
Yeah, definitely go watch after Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm assuming you've seen it already if you're listening this far into the show, though, because we gave away a lot of spoilers. But if you haven't by chance and you just didn't care about spoilers, yeah, go watch it. Go watch Ghostbusters Afterlife. But that'll pretty much do it for this week's episode. I know Carl and I might be going to C2E2, which we'll probably do an episode about that, just like our experience there. And I think that's coming up December 10th to the 12th.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're gonna probably go to December 12th that day, just because schedule wise, that's the only one that kind of works out the best. But yeah, we'll probably down the line. Obviously, that's a couple of weeks from now, but we will probably have a show dedicated to C2E2 at some point. But yeah, that's a wrap for today. For myself, Salim Sutterwala, and for Carl Eames. Obviously, please follow us at my handle is at Science Flixtion, and Carl's is at Ninja Turtles. And we'll see you next time.
All right, peace out, guys.
Thank you.